Hey gang, this is Andy over at Falco K9 Academy. This is our bed bug detection dog frequently asked questions episode. And the reason we threw this video quickly together is because I'm on my way out of town to go to Nashville to the Police K9 Magazine conference. And because of the volume of phone calls we've been getting from everywhere, from the federal government, from Washington, D.C., to local press, to quite a few customers that are calling us from across the United States. We've been called from everywhere from the Northwest to Utah, Texas, New York, Canada, everywhere. And so we want to make sure and cover some of the questions that are fairly common in our phone conversations with these folks. One of the most common questions that we get asked is, are our dogs guaranteed? And yes, our dogs are guaranteed, and our training to the handler is guaranteed. If you get here to pick up your dog and the dog is not searching properly, alerting properly, finding the hidden odors, and once we get you and the dog put together, you are not trained to your satisfaction to utilize the dog, to maintain the behaviors when you get back home, and how to make sure that you're ready for certification processes that may take place quarterly or biannually is what we recommend. You will get your money back. And that's important to us because it puts us in a position that not that we don't already want to succeed, but it just puts a little bit more pressure on everybody here to always succeed. Of course, we do not want to put the time and effort into the dog and your training and then give you all your money back. We make sure that when you go home, that you can go to work, that you can be in front of a camera, like CNN, ABC, whoever it is that's following you around, and you are effective, and you look professional. Probably the next most common question is, how do we train the dogs? What reward system do we use? Our primary reward system is the toy reward system. Although we do have a few dogs on occasion that we will bring out the food and use food as the reward, like this dog that you are seeing here, that is both toy and food motivated. And we are using the food at this current time because it seems to bring this dog into a better place for searching purposes. With the toy desire seems to be so strong that the dog searches a little bit too fast for our liking. This may come into effect later on in the dog's life. When the dog starts to slow down, we may bring the toy back to bring the dog back up to the level that it is when we are using the food. So, or I guess back down to the level where we are using the food, but it's the most effective level, and that's what we're always looking for. We believe that the toy system is a great system because when we select dogs, we're selecting them based on their natural abilities, their natural desires. There's nothing we have to put into the dog. We don't have to withhold the toy for a certain period of time for it to start searching for the toy. The desire for the toy and the desire to hunt for that toy, which essentially is the bed bugs, is always there. It remains the same and remains constant. Where belief in the food reward system is that with certain dogs it can work very effectively, but in many dogs, it can be a varying level of desire. It's not always there, it's not always present, or always at the level that we want it to be at. And in some cases, it harbors trainers who don't know any better, or who are ill-informed, or just plain old bad trainers, to withhold food for long periods of time in order to get that desire out of the dog. So some of the dogs that are being purchased out there, we know for sure, because they've come to us, just skinnier than any dog should be. And when you see a lab that looks like a greyhound, and you have to ask what breed of dog that is, and it is because the dog has been food trained and the motivation has been put into the dog through starvation. That is just not a healthy way for the dog to train, number one, and it's cruel, number two, and it's not effective for the long-term goals of somebody who's going into business as a bed bug detection dog handler. So in the case of our dogs, we use whatever natural behaviors are in the dog that don't have to be created through starvation or withholding of anything to make the desire strong. We were asked oftentimes, what about the rest of our training methods? Are they humane, or are they cruel in any way? And our system, from the police dogs to the pet dogs to the detection dogs, is a humane form of training. It's a reward-based training. We will use a correction such as no or release correction to get the dog to understand that whatever they're doing at that time that we don't like is wrong, and we try to work through to get the dog to understand if they just do what we want, they'll get the reward, whatever that is, a pat on the head, a good boy, or a toy or food or something like that. But it is weighed heavily on the reward-based system with minor or mild corrections when necessary using humane methods. The next question is, how effective are our dogs once they leave the facility and go off into their state or city where they're going to be working without us standing over them and making sure that the handlers are doing the right thing? And always our goal is to make sure to give all of our handlers and all of our dog owners the tools that are required to maintain the behaviors at a very high level. And we give you a manual that gives you step-by-step instructions on how to maintain those behaviors. We are always available for a phone call. We're always available for an email. And so you always have contact with us throughout the life of the dog or the working time with the dog. That anytime you get stuck or something starts to change, we'll be there for you to give you a hand. And we always have seminars and updated training sessions and certification sessions that also offer problem solving and that kind of stuff. So we're always here from you for the life of the dog. The most difficult thing that we're going to talk about later is, in your areas, how do you find somebody that's qualified to certify your dog? Does it take an association of some sort, like John's bed bug certification company? That is a little bit sticky right now. That's one of the things, or one of the problems we're trying to tackle here as a provider of bed bug detection dogs, on how those people that aren't near us, how can they trust that whoever is certifying their dog is going to do the job for them and not just hand them a certificate or say, well, that was close enough, here's your certificate. You always want to be challenged. You always want to make sure that your dog is being effective, and so you want to make sure your certifier is on the up and up, and his goal is only that he certifies whether you are effective or not. If you're not, he'll recommend that you go seek further training, or if you are, you'll just get the certificate. But that is a really sticky question. I'm going to try to tackle that in another follow-up question later on this video. Of course, another popular question is, what is it that we train the dogs on? How do we train them on the bed bugs? And a little bit of that information is proprietary, so we're not going to tell you how we do the stage issue or deal with the stage issue in regard to the 5 different stages of the bugs and all that kind of information. However, the most important thing, and this is information we put out on our website and on the internet in video form before, and that is the dogs are trained to find live bed bugs and live eggs and ignore the dead ones and exoskeletons and the dead eggs. And so we make sure that that's very clear. When the dog is searching or doing certification, in a search there could be nothing. In a search there could be simply only dead bugs within the searching area, or up to different numbering amounts of live bed bugs. And so in a search of 10 rooms, you never know what you're going to get. It could be nothing in the 10 rooms. There could be one or the other, or just only dead bed bugs or whatever. So that is kind of how our certification is held, and so the training replicates that. Okay? Okay, let's tackle a little bit of how we teach the handlers, or how we teach the dogs to do the search. And in an earlier newsletter that we just got done, and it's on the internet just before this video probably, is that we want to make sure that it's understood that our dogs are searching for the bed bugs on their own, essentially. We don't need the handler, based on our training methods, to be involved in the search, other than making sure the dog is getting into the areas that it needs to get into. That does not mean pointing out every crack, crevice, crease, outlet, light switch that is in the room. If that is the case, you are spending 75% more time on your search than our dog teams are, because the dog's job simply is to go into the room and find the bed bugs, and they should know how to do that on their own without you interfering or getting in the way. There's a lot of problems that come with the handler being that involved in the search. So if you see a handler saying seek, 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 as he goes down the baseboards, bent over in front of his dog, backing into stuff and not seeing where he's going, you can pretty much see the problems in that, and that is not an effective way to handle a search with a detection dog. It simply is not. Many of our dogs are trained to work, or actually all of our dogs are trained to work off-leash and on-leash, and some dogs work more effectively off-leash than on-leash, and vice versa. The time that you use on leash, the time that you use off leash is going to be determined based on the handler's needs, knowledge, and abilities with the differing dogs. We have some dogs that will search far more often off leash than they will on leash. We have other dogs that will search far more often on leash than they will off leash. So it's dependent on the team as a whole. But in any case, whether the dog is on or off, the dog is still mostly searching on his own. If the handler points out an area or points out a crease or a crevice or something like that, it's either early on in training or in the time where the handler seems to believe that the dog has missed something, maybe walked by a drawer system a couple times, and now the handler wants to make sure the dog smells it, sees it, acknowledges it, and does the search. But those are the only times that we want to see the handler really getting involved in directing the dog to the finds.